Now to this really heartbreaking story. Khayalethu Magadla has been laid to rest in Bityi in the Eastern Cape. The 6-year-old was playing with his friends in Soweto when he fell into an open manhole. After an extensive weeks-long search, his body was finally found at the Eldorado Park Waste Plant. The family has thanked everyone who supported them during this difficult time. eNCA's Lindokuhle Xulu has been tracking the story for us, and he's in the Eastern Cape. He joins us now live. Lindo, it's very difficult to not be emotional about this particular story. We saw yesterday that family, community members and Soweto at large came to support the family to send off the body of Khayalethu Magadla. He's finally been laid to rest. I'm sure this is closure for the family.
There's certainly closure, Heidi, in terms of, what happened to Khayalethu Magadla, because one of the things that was very, very important to the family was that despite him going missing for about 3 weeks, theirs was that he must be found dead or alive. And unfortunately, it was a search and recovery mission at some point, and they found his body just by the split chamber at the Klipspruit Cemetery, just before you get to the waste plant, the water waste plant there. But I can tell you that for the family, it's just been a matter of saying that they are grateful that those searches have yielded the results that they wanted, which is that they find the body of the 6-year-old. And you are right in saying that his body was then sent to, Eastern Cape. This is where they have a sacred, a gravesite for all of the Magadlas. So that is where they are being buried in Bityi. So that is where we were earlier on, and we did observe that particular ceremony where they were laying him to rest. One of the things that had happened, in fact, was that the body, according to tradition, could not necessarily go inside. They didn't even have a ceremony in terms of, the speeches and all of that before they bury him. So they buried him first because they are saying that there is a bad omen about people that have passed away, not in a natural way. So that is what had happened earlier on. But we did speak to the father who just spoke to us and said that they are grateful. For them, it's a very important thing that they were able to finally lay him to rest, and they have a sense of where he is in terms of, where he's buried. So that was one thing that was quite important for the family. And fortunately today, according to them, they were able then to do exactly that. And, in terms of the mood that was there, the father at some point when we were speaking to him during the search and after the body was found, he was speaking about things of saying that, it took them quite some time to actually come to terms with what had happened, because their son was missing. Eventually, when he was found, he did see that they were able to then become emotional. But today, they were the ones, in fact, shushing and trying to comfort those that were crying, part of the family members. But for them, it's been quite a long journey. They said that they were overexerted themselves as far as their emotions are concerned, and they were the ones comforting the family and telling them that everything will be fine. And it just goes to show how long they've been dealing with this, and today they were able to finally lay their child to rest.
Certainly, Lindo, and I think what makes things a lot more heartbreaking is just the way that Khayalethu Magadla lost his life. There have been lots of questions about the fact that why was this manhole open? Yesterday at the send-off, community members were speaking about how they had reported this manhole for over 2 years, but nothing had been done about it. You've covered this story extensively, being one of the first on the scene when we heard that Khayalethu Magadla fell into that manhole. And it just speaks to how there is no understanding of the needs of the communities. And people are saying it's just unfortunate that it was Khayalethu Magadla that had to lose his life. But it speaks to the overall problems in these communities, doesn't it?
It speaks to a lot of problems that we have in the city of Johannesburg alone. The issue of dealing with manholes has always been a problem for many communities. I mean, you find that there are manholes even in parks like Khayalethu Magadla, the one he fell into. So there are all of these manholes, about 1.4 million of them across Johannesburg. And as much as, there are issues around the fact that the community is saying they've reported it, and at the same time, Johannesburg Water, as well as the city of Johannesburg, says their investigation shows no particular track record of this manhole being, recorded. So there's being reported. So there's all of these components and issues that are being raised around manholes. But I can tell you that one of the people that really should be having, on organizations that should be having a headache about this, is the city of Johannesburg, because they are the ones that are responsible for these manholes. So one of the things that we were able to get from Bab Magadla today, Khaya Magadla, the father, was to ask him in terms of, after this process process of finding closure, after this process of finality for their son, what will happen next? What are they looking to do as far as some of their plans are concerned? And he just said that the people who are responsible for these manholes know exactly what happened, know exactly how they snatched his child's life away from him, and know exactly what they need to do. So he says at this stage there is no plan in terms of trying to hold them accountable, but he says that he is going to give them time for them to actually be the ones that come to the party. And he says that if that doesn't happen, then there'll be considerations, but he wasn't quite specific about those. But importantly is one of the things that he said today, which was the fact that at the end of the day, they are here, they are in this particular process, and for them it's all about finding closure at this stage. And he says that other things, such as the fact of taking taking them to task as far as those that are responsible for the manhole, he says that he'll give them time to actually consider what they need to do to actually come and approach the family. But he says that at a later stage there'll then be considerations. But for today the focus was really on laying the 6-year-old to rest and having some of the family members who were far from this particular story, as far as them being this side in Eastern Cape, to have them actually find some closure. Take a listen to just some of the things that I've mentioned as far as the bite is concerned. Bob Magadla sitting next to his son's grave and just talking about how this process will help him and his family find closure.
Finally, ngasho ngithi ngizothola iclosure because ngiyambona la bese ngimbeke khona ekhaya emathambini abokhokho bami nabomkhulu nabogogo. Kusho nje kimphakathi ngathi ngiyabonga kakhulu emphakathini wonke amabhizinisi abenami. Thanda ukuthi ngibonge kakhulu ngoba ngize ngayithola lento ebengiyidinga ebengiyithandazela. uNkulunkulu ngithanda ukumbonga kakhulu ngokunginika lento ebekade ngicela iclosure. At least manje sengiyazi ukuthi uKhayalethu Magadla njengoba bakhe ngingamfuna ngamthola, bangincedisa ngazombeka la khaya lakhe lokugcina.
Thank you to Lindokuhle Xulu giving us that report where Khayalethu Magadla has finally been laid to rest in the